Okay, welcome back to our Call of Cthulhu campaign. And, yeah. Crazy stuff happened this session. You know what sucks? Completely off topic. I don't know, every time I finish a session of role-playing and then I come to do the role-manging, I always get a headache. And I don't know if it's like I'm overburdening my talking skills or something. I don't know. So basically every role-manging you've seen, I have a headache. Anyways, I don't know, I guess it was worse today that I felt the need to mention it. But anyways. Yeah, so Call of Cthulhu, we haven't met in some time. I feel like it's been a while. Probably because it has been a while. But if you recall, or if you don't recall, they were in Cairo, and they had visited the Clive expedition, and they kind of pissed them off, and they got some info, and they went to Giza, and they found out about this kind of secret entrance in some like tombs, and they killed a few guards, and they escaped, and then they dealt with Jan Willem, and they, you know, handled all those scrolls of Bast and shit like that, so they took care of things, man. But then they were like, alright, we gotta gear up, we gotta get ready, we're gonna go down into that secret entrance. We gotta foil this resurrection. Because the cultists have everything they need now to resurrect Nitocris. It is up to these brave explorers to stop this horrible resurrection. Save the world. So, yeah. So, after we get everybody together, they decide, it's like 10:30 or 11 or something like that, they decide to head out to Giza. To the pyramids, to the Sphinx. And so they drive the Jeep out there, and as they get closer, they discover a line of men, or, you know, a line of humans, whatever, walking basically into the Sphinx from what they can see, and disappearing. And all these people are wearing white robes, and they have torches. So they're like, oh shit, we gotta follow them. And so, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can handle this situation. They decided to go the very straightforward way. Not the most straightforward way. They could have driven the vehicle into them, but they thought against it. So they ran up to them, charged up to them. They tried to be stealthy, but no. Like, no. Like, it just, no. I mean, some games, like a D20 system. Well, I guess that's kind of a bad example. But like 4th edition D&D or something like that, you know. Well, I mean, it's with anything. Any RPG you play. Unless you're all playing stealth characters, if you all try to stealth, you're only going to be as stealthy as the worst guy, you know, the clumsiest guy, whatever, the least stealthy guy. So some games, like 4th edition D&D, even if you were, you know, a paladin in plate, you still might have a passing chance at stealth. In Call of Cthulhu, you have like a 10% chance, I think, something like that. Like really low. And very few characters take stealth or anything. Like, I know I'm comparing it to 4th edition D&D, but 4th edition D&D, it's just like you build your character and you might have some points in stealth. It just might happen to be that way. And so you might have like a 40% chance or something like that to get a passing number. But here it's like you have to specifically put points into sneak. And if that doesn't make sense for your character, you're not going to do it. So it's less likely for a group to be stealthy in Call of Cthulhu than in something like D&D. That's what I think. But either way, shit happens. So of course they get seen. And so the cultists, you know, yell out infidels, and they pull out their clubs that have like a nail through it, and they charge at them. And Linus, Ziggy, you know, busts one of them in the face right away, no problem with his rifle. And Lu Jiang smacks another guy upside the head with his club, killing him or his staff, killing him instantly. But the third guy gave him a little bit of trouble. He got his club up in Lu Jiang's ribs, and so some damage was done. But they eventually put him down. And so they grab their robes, and they put on some robes. And there's not enough robes for everybody. And they do a bunch of conversation. They're talking all about their whole plan for going in here and doing all this and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of sitting there, because I know the end result of this. I know exactly what the end result of this is, but I keep my mouth shut. Basically because I thought it was funny. You'll understand when I tell you, but I should have mentioned it, but I wanted them to talk about all this, and then the end result would occur, and I would laugh. So I'm basically just a dick, is what I'm saying. So they do this whole conversation about their whole plan. Like, literally, this takes like 5 minutes. And then he's like, all right, I think we're ready. Let's go. And I'm like, all right. So I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, right into the pillar. Because they didn't actually walk into the Sphinx. It was a gigantic stele, I think they call it. S-T-E-L-E. Which is basically like a big pillar. And so he's like, right, into the pillar. And I'm like, okay. You take 1 point of damage as your face collides with the stone. And I laughed. And I was like, nobody else really thought it was funny. But I laughed. Because like they basically cast a spell that opened up this portal on this pillar. And it was only open for a limited amount of time. And so you know, it closed like right after they killed these cultists, and so I didn't really tell them. Visually, it was probably different. They could have noticed, but for whatever reason, I withheld that because I thought it was funny. So, yeah. So I just walked into the stone pillar, and so they decided, okay, we're not gonna. Yeah, there was hieroglyphics on the pyramid, but none of them could read it, I guess, and so they were just like, alright, I guess we'll go through the secret entrance that we found. And so they go down, and they have to get this slab off. So they attach a rope around this slab. I don't know how you do that. Like, I'm trying to think about it. Like, how... Like, literally, picture, like, a stone slab. I mean, I guess you could attach a rope, but I don't know how you'd secure it. Anyways. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading shit. Alright, so... I'm sorry about this. I'm so unprofessional, aren't I? See, I could never be a celebrity and go on talk shows and shit. Anyways, I don't think I have to worry about that. So they attach a rope around the slab. They hook it up to the Jeep, and they yank the slab off, basically. They yank it like part ways, and then the car breaks down, and they all try to roll to fix it. Because you have a base 20% chance. You have a base 20% chance in mechanical repair. So all of them roll. Yeah, I think all 6 of them. Yeah, all 6 of them rolled. None of them made it. None of them had points in it. None of them made the check. So, statistically, I think they should have made it, but they didn't. It wouldn't have made a big difference, but I thought it was funny. That's how, you know, that's how chance works, man. So they all just got up and they pulled the rope themselves, and Gulk helped. So I rolled for it, but it doesn't matter what I roll because Gulk was just going to be like, yeah, fuck this. Alright. So they were also discussing, okay, Okay. They were also discussing, because if you remember, Eugene, Reefley's character, lost the use of his legs psychosomatically. And so they were all like, okay, Eugene, you stay in the car. And you just keep a lookout. And I'm like, man, I either have to give his legs back to him now, or I have to figure out a way for him to get down there. Because having a character, like, just sit, like, just picture it. Like, in real life, like, all your friends are like, all right, we're going to go into this strip club. You just sit out here on the porch, on the steps, and just keep a lookout for cops, or, you know, just something like that. It's like, fuck that. So I wasn't going to do that. So when they went in by the slab, the wheelchair was still there. Okay. They didn't take the wheelchair for whatever. They forgot about it. So they put him in the wheelchair, and they were making jokes about they were hoping that this labyrinth down there was handicap ready or whatever like that. And so it was originally going to be steps. Like, after they pull out the slab, it'll be like a series of stairs leading down. But I was like, nah, fuck that. It's a gigantic ramp at a 60-degree angle. So they all just hop down and slide down on their butts. But Eugene gets pushed down. So he just accelerates ahead of all of them and just careens off into the darkness. And so eventually it does level out, you know, at a nice, gentle pace, but he's still got a lot of momentum, so he smashes into the wall and takes a bunch of damage. It was goofy, but hilarious. You know, Call of Cthulhu is going to have goofy moments. You can't have a Call of Cthulhu campaign. I guess you could, it'd be really shit. Where it's just all serious, grim, dark, scary the whole time. I mean, come on. Not even Lovecraft would like that. I have a little humor, so we keep it funny. Yeah, so they all eventually get down there, and it is pitch black down there. Just absolute darkness, and they were not really prepared for that. I'm not sure why you would not be prepared for that. You're headed into an underground labyrinth. Did you think it would have like fluorescent lighting? I don't know. But they had a flashlight, and I think somebody had like a torch. Yeah, I think Ronnie had a torch and Richard had a flashlight. So they gather each other up and they start walking, and they're in like this misshapen tunnel. And I describe it to them as if it were carved away from the earth by like claws or something. Like this is unnatural, you know. You gotta put them at unease, you know, they're never really sure. And then, like, the tunnel would, like, get narrower and wider at points, and the ceilings and floors would kind of be, like, rolling and shifting, and there would be, like, little turns and stuff, so you could never really make it see very far up front or behind you, you know, just, I don't, you know, like, claustrophobic would just be like, you know. So, they start walking, and, eventually they make it out into this man-made tunnel. Like, this one is clearly constructed from hands, you know. And it's, you know, clearly it's like 8 feet wide, 8 feet high, you know, it's much nicer. It's like, okay, we're good. We're in the main tunnel. And it goes left or right. So I think Richard, like, flips a coin, and he decides to go left. Alright, not sure if I should talk about this in secrets or not. Nah, fuck it, I don't care if they know. Yeah, secrets is for stuff I don't want them to know. They can know this, it doesn't matter. Alright, so, on the map, like, in the campaign book, it has a map of this whole labyrinth. And it's very extensive, and it would take you hours to go through. So at this point on the map, you know, it does branch left or right. And to the right goes to the main great chamber where I want them to be. To the left, it ends pretty abruptly, but it says, to secret chamber. And I'm like, what secret chamber? And I'm like, I keep flipping through the pages, and I'm just looking real closely, and I'm like, and it says like the main tunnel leads from the entrance through the steel all the way across to the secret chamber of Queen Needlecris. And that's it. That's all it says. Anywhere. It doesn't mention the secret chamber anywhere else. And so I'm like, what? You want me to just make this up? This secret chamber of Needlecris? And I guess maybe now it's where they I think it might be where they uncovered the sarcophagus. That might be what it refers to. Where they initially uncovered the sarcophagus and they said they weren't sure what it was or whatever. I guess that might be what it refers to. But either way, I was like, I don't want them going down that way. How do I make them turn around? Pretty simple. So Richard, who's in front, starts to hear growling. And so he quickly just like, he's like this, and then he just turns around and he's like this, and he starts heading in the opposite direction. And so everybody else starts following suit, and then they start to hear the growling. And it starts to get a little louder, so they start running. And Elizabeth, Ed, he's pushing Eugene, who's in the wheelchair. He lets go of Eugene and just starts sprinting on his own. And so Eugene's like, ah! And so Ziggy takes over. He grabs him and he starts pushing him. And so it starts to get pretty loud now. This growling, and it sounds like something is like big is charging at them. And so Ziggy like lets go of Eugene. He turns around, he pulls out his rifle, and he's like, Eugene, get out of here! And he just starts firing into the darkness. And so you hear these bullets just ricocheting off the walls, and they hear like roaring. And they're like, oh shit! But Eugene says, no, you get out of here. And he starts like he turns around and he starts rolling towards the sound. And Ziggy's like, oh, okay. So he starts running. And Ronnie, Ren, runs up to Eugene. And he pulls out a stick of dynamite. And he's like, take care of this for us. Eugene's like, all right. So they're all running. Eugene, like, he's like basically in the dark. The only thing lit is this stick of dynamite. This fuse is the only light he's got. Everything else is dark. And this like cacophony of horrible noises is just barreling down on him. And so he's got this lit stick of dynamite. And the sound suddenly stops. Just dead silence. All he hears is running distantly behind him and the fuse of the dynamite. And he's just like, oh shit. So he just he throws it like 6 feet in front of him, and he tries to turn around and wheel away, and he rolls a luck, and it's terrible. So I'm like, alright, you take 57 points of damage. As this, I mean, that's probably pretty light. It should have probably been way more. He's in like this contained little tunnel, like 10 feet from a stick of dynamite. He's fucking red mist, just. And thus ends the story of Eugene. I should have, like, at that last second, I should have been like, you have feeling in your legs. Run! But yeah. There was no creature. I didn't tell them that. They'll have to watch this video if they want to find out, but there was nothing. it was literally just sounds. Because, hey, I get to fuck with you like that. I'm amazed they sacrificed somebody like... Or he volunteered to sacrifice like that. Without even, getting a glimpse of what this was. But, yeah, man. So, yeah, he died for no reason whatsoever. But, okay. Yeah, so they continued on. They're like, he was a hero. He died to save us. And so they continued on. And they go on for like 1,000 feet or something through these dark tunnels. And they start to hear... They ignore... There's other branching tunnels, but they ignore them because they're smart. And suddenly they start to hear footsteps from in front of them. So they all stop. And they like get their backs up against the wall. And then they hear footsteps behind them. And they're like, oh shit. And then he like shines his light in front of him, Richard. And he sees a few humanoids. And most of their bodies are pretty normal. But then they get to their heads and not so normal. They have like the head of a cat or like a falcon or like a crocodile or a bull or some shit. Just nasty. So there's some sanity loss. But he's like, shit. So he pulls out that like ceremonial enchanted copper dagger. And he starts muttering these arcane words. And he wants to summon this creature that he's been taught how to summon. The unseen servant, I think. And it just morphs out of the wall. And so everybody has to roll sanity at looking at this thing. 3 people go temporarily insane just from seeing this thing. I didn't really describe it. It's kind of like... It's like translucent, but it's like vaguely insectoid. But it's also vaguely... there's a better word for what I want to say. I want to say vaguely ape-ish, but there's a formal word for this, that family. Man, I'm dumb. What? Chimpish. I don't know. There's a word for that, but you understand what I'm saying. Vaguely like a monkey. Like an ape. So it's kind of like a cross between an insect and an ape, but it's got... I don't know. It's freaky. Like, it was a 1d10 sanity loss. So it was pretty big. And so, I think Lu Jiang just goes into the fetal position. Linus just is rooted to the spot with a fear of insects, because it's like insectoid-ish. And Richard starts just babbling incoherently. But the thing morphs out of the wall and just stares at him. And he remembers that he's supposed to give it a command. So he just points to the weird humanoid. The children of the Sphinx is what they're called. So it points at the children of the Sphinx. And I was like, well done. Because that's actually, like, sufficient. That, like, if he pointed at anything, like, the thing interprets it as rip this to shreds. So, that was good. I applauded that. Because I did put him in a tricky situation where he couldn't talk, so he interpreted it well. So yeah, it just like pounced on these things. And I didn't do any rolls, because it was just like, fuck that, you dying, man. So it was just like, and blood was just gushing everywhere. It was like Kill Bill or some shit. It was crazy. So while that was going on, they had to deal with the ones behind them. And so Ronnie is in the back. Ronnie has a shotgun. So he just pulls it out, and he's just, boom, boom, and all 3 of them back there just die. I was like, yeah, they didn't really think this through. It was supposed to be more of an ambush, but I was very generous. Like, literally, it's just like 7 of them show up and just drag one of them off. So I was pretty nice, but I think it was cooler this way. So, yeah, they've got 3 or 4 of them dead behind them, and then there's just this bloodbath in front of them, and I was really debating whether or not to have the unseen servant start attacking the group, and I was like, no, that would be... Because they'd probably all die, and I want them to get to the big ritual, so... he started approaching, but then Richard gave him another command. He just pointed in that direction, and so the thing just started barreling off. Never to be seen again. That was basically just go free. Alright. So they walk through this kind of bloodbath. You know, just blood and guts everywhere. And they continue walking, and eventually they approach the entrance to the Grand Chamber. So they hear chanting, they see lights coming from here, and they haven't looked into the Grand Chamber yet. Like, there's a big entrance hole, and they can see, like, what seems to be steps going into it, but they haven't looked into the Grand Chamber. And so I couldn't describe the Grand Chamber until they look. And so I had Gulk, he was like, maybe you should just look around the corner first. And Richard's like, hell no. I'm just going to walk in there, like, you know, confident and like I own the place. Because he's got a robe on, and he's just going to keep his head down and walk right in. And I'm like, oh, God. So, he just walks straight in. I'm like, all right. Well, you see this humongous chamber, like 400 by 500 feet. You can't see the ceiling because lights don't go up that high. And in front of you is like steps that go for about 100 feet inwards. And along the steps are about 15 of those children of the Sphinx, all staring at you. Beyond them, filling the Grand Chamber, it's probably about 1,000 people, from what you can make out. And at the far end, there appears to be some ritual going along some elevated altar. And chanting is just loudly filling the room. And two of the children of Sphinx start approaching you. One of them has like a hippo head, and one of them has a bull head. And he's just like, I'll keep my head down. And I'm like, God. I don't think it really says anything about these things speaking, so I'm assuming they don't have the power of speech. They're just the muscle. So the one with the bull head just like grabs him by the neck and just like turns his head, like examining him, and you know, he's late to the party. And he should not be late to the party. Not this late. Like, everybody came in at a pretty regular time. So, this guy's suspicious. So, the guy with the bullhead just drags him through the crowd up to the altar. So, he gets dragged through this huge crowd of chanting, you know, cultists. Taken up to the altar. And at the altar, he sees the open sarcophagus of Nitocris. He sees an Egyptian man that he's never seen before. This was Omar Shakti, by the way. They never met him. They saw Dr. Henry Clive, which they were like, what? Are you kidding me? He was a cultist? They saw Martin Winfield, the asshole guy. They saw James Gardner and Agatha Broadmoor, but they were both like had their hands tied and they were on their knees. And, you know, Dr. Henry Clive's like, well, Mr. Blackstone, thank you for joining us. And Richard tried to bullshit. He tried to bullshit his way by saying that he was a servant of the dark god sent here to test the faith of the disciples of the Black Pharaoh. And he said something about needing to contact Azathoth. And it was really funny. It was really funny to me. Probably only me. Because it was somebody... Like, this was an interesting moment where both a player and a character don't know what the hell they're talking about. And so they're lying poorly. Very, very few people contact Azathoth. Because... you're not going to get an answer, and you don't really want to disturb him. Only the insane, you know, want to contact Azathoth. And I know pretty much they're all insane, but I'm talking like, even the insane people think like, well, that's fucking insane, man. Yeah, I'm just like, he was like, does Richard know like any names of the Dark Gods? I'm like, yeah, you know, Kafor told you about Nyarlathotep and Nodens and Azathoth. And he's like, oh, Azathoth. I hope I've talked enough about this so you guys get an idea of what, you know, who Azathoth is and why this is funny. Where he's like, you know, I'm a servant and I must contact Azathoth. No. Why did you not say Nyarlathotep? If you would have said that, it would have been maybe okay. It wouldn't make a difference in the long run with what I'm going to tell you, but it was just, I guess it was funny this way to me. And he said Azathoth. So Dr. Henry Clive was like, this guy doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. And then he pulls out the mask of Hayama that he has on him. And so he just hears like a collective gasp. Because this is like, I talked about this way back, how important this thing is. They get to basically talk to their god through this thing. And so Richard's like, yeah, I got him. They know now. I'm like, no, Clive doesn't believe your shit. So he just goes up and he snatches. He's like, thank you. He's like, if you are truly a servant, you won't mind witnessing this great ritual. And so then he's like, Miss Broadmoor, you may begin. And she begins like chanting. Okay, so throughout that whole thing, Richard was contemplating pulling out his gun and shooting Dr. Henry Clive. He decided not to do it because he didn't think it would do anything. He's right, it wouldn't do anything. Then when he saw that Agatha Broadmoor started chanting and she was involved, he was like, maybe I should shoot her. But he'd only get one chance, and he wasn't sure if he was going to do it. And the player was distracted by what the other characters were doing. So what the other characters were doing was contemplating blowing up the whole place. So they look and they see, you know, how many people, how big the room is. They see Richard has basically been captured. And they're looking at through their explosives. And Ronnie's like, I don't know if I have enough. But Golk's like, I got some. So he pulls out like these black sticks of dynamite. And they're like, oh shit. So, this was their plan. Again, it's one of those moments where it was like, could I come up with a better plan? I can't really say if I could come up with a better plan because, you know, I know all the details, but I feel like if I were playing, I could come up with a better plan than this. I don't want to toot my own horn, but that's kind of what I do, is I like to come up with plans. So their plan is basically Reggie runs out there and throws a few sticks of dynamite into the crowd. And that's it. That was it. That was it. That was their plan. Or, I don't know if that was the extent of their plan. I thought maybe they would have more than that, but it was like, what do you expect is going to happen? These things are going to go off. Like, that's not going to do nothing. You're not just going to be like, okay, throw the next set, you know? Like, shit's going to rock. But, so yeah, that's what they did. And so Reggie grabbed, like, or Linus grabbed, like, 2 sticks of regular dynamite and then 1 of Golk's. So he rolled throw 3 times. And throw is kind of bullshit, because it's like, you really should put points in throw, but nobody does. Because it's like, oh, when is that going to come into play? But anytime you throw anything, I have you roll throw. So, I mean, he's trying to chuck it pretty far. He wanted to chuck it all the way to the altar. That's like 400 feet. That's like 500 feet. So maybe if he had 99 throw, I'd be like, alright, maybe. But nah, he doesn't. So I just had him roll 3 times. I just wanted to see what the rolls were. He rolled like a 95, a 21, and a 9. I was like, alright, that's a good spread. So the 95 one just lands like 10 feet in front of him. The 21 goes pretty, you know, into the crowd a little bit. And then the 9 one, which was the black one, the Golk one, he chucked that pretty damn far. And then he sees like all these children of the Sphinx in front of him. They're charging at him. So he, like, runs back to the rest of the group. He's like, we got company! And so then Richard is up front. Oh, there was one other person there. Ah, damn. Mahmoud. Mahmoud was up there. He didn't get to say anything because all this craziness was going on. No, I'll talk about this here. I'm not sure if I should have had the Children of Sphinx there. If I didn't have the Children of the Sphinx down the stairs, I think it would have been perhaps more interesting with what they did. I felt like they were kind of forced to just blow everything up. But the book said 2d10 Children of the Sphinx are guarding this holy site or whatever, so I was like, okay, I guess that means they're on the stairs. Because, yeah, I guess even if I were there, I'm not sure what else I would do to get past these. I mean, you're already late, and you don't have robes. And even if you do have robes, they're going to be suspicious because you're late. So how do you get past these? It's tough. You need to have some sort of distraction. It's tricky. It's tricky. So I guess in hindsight, maybe I wouldn't have them there just to see how it plays. But they were there. So they did what they had to do. And so, okay, so Mahmoud was there. How did I get on... Yeah, anyways. So Mahmoud was there. And he was dressed in, like... He had, like, rings on his fingers. He was dressed in fine robes. He was like, ha, ha, ha. And he was supposed to taunt Richard Blackstone. Like, you ignored me before, Mr. Blackstone, but not now. Die! Something like that. But I didn't get a chance to. So, I'm not sure what he thought of Mahmoud, but Mahmoud was like a powerful sorcerer now. I don't know. I didn't get to play that up. But I did say Mahmoud was there. Anyways, so Richard sees the spirit of Needlecrest like rise out of the sarcophagus. And just like this spectral thing floating in the air. And Richard calls out to his unseen servant. And just as he does, the dynamite goes off. So, the group that was at the front by the stairs, by the Children of Sphinx, all dead. I was just like, yeah, you're all dead. I wasn't going to play around, just, yeah, you're dead. Because mixed with both the dynamite exploding and everything collapsing, I'd say you're probably dead. Because even if you did survive the initial thing, and you survived, like, everything collapsing, and you're just stuck in there, what are you going to do? I mean, I guess I could say you make some dark pacts with Gulk, but I didn't want to do that, so you're just dead. A bunch of cultists died, needless to say. And the black one that Gulk gave, that was a pretty big one. It didn't have to be that close to the altar because it was damn big. So that just wrecked a bunch of the support pillars. Everything started shaking and crumbling, and everybody just got knocked on their asses. And so pieces of the ceiling are like falling all around Richard, and he's on the ground, up on the altar. He sees Agatha Broadmoor, and he's like, I gotta kill her. You know, I gotta make sure she's dead. So he crawls over to her, pulls out his gun, puts it right to this old lady's head, who's just terrified, and just... And then he gets smashed by the ceiling. And that's a TPK. Everybody died. Yep. If that wheelchair had not been in the tomb where they had left it, and Eugene stayed in the vehicle, he would have been the sole survivor. But no, they brought him down there and he died. So yeah, that was the first TPK of the game. Now, you might say that could have been preventable on my part. You might be right, and I'll talk about that in a second. I mean, yeah, I could have made the dynamite smaller. I could have said that one of the Children of the Sphinx just walked up to the dynamite and just, you know, pulled out the fuse or something like that, and then they beat their faces in. Something like that I could have done. But it was a TPK. So here's the thing. I don't think this will piss anybody off that I made this decision, but it was a decision I made. So when I discovered Fate Core And I started reading about that. I was like, I like this. You know, and I started thinking about how this campaign would work with Fate Core. Because I was like, you know, I'm not crazy about the Call of Cthulhu system. It's very mechanical, which I think kind of, for a horror-based game, I prefer kind of narrative thing. And, you know, there's a lot of numbers involved in Call of Cthulhu. Too many. And, I was just wrapping around my head about, you know, you could do this with Fate Core, and okay, you know, this NPC would have these aspects. I was just kind of running around in my head, and I was talking about it to Ren, and he was like, "Yeah, that would be cool. I don't really like the Call of Cthulhu system either." And I was like, "Well, you know, maybe if there's like a whole TPK of the party, maybe we'll all switch." Because I wouldn't be like, all right, remake your current characters in Fate. We're switching. And I wouldn't like, you can't like switch it in like, oh, you just died? Well, make your character in Fate. Well, the rest of us are called. You can't do that. It has to be a conversion. And I wasn't going to be like, well, you all miraculously died somehow. I guess we're switching to Fate. So I was like, I guess, you know, if it comes up, then maybe we'll switch. And so we came into this situation, and I was like, if there's going to be one moment in this campaign where a TPK in a certain fashion would be most appropriate, it would be here. Because, like, I think Ren knew when I said TPK, he knew what was going to happen. Because he's like, he's an explosives expert. Look at all this room for explosives, you know? So, this resurrection, like I said, they want to stop this resurrection. It would be bad if this went through. And the ways to foil the resurrection were few, you know? You either kill Agatha Broadmoor, which they definitely thought about. They could have tried. You destroy one of the 3 artifacts, which is possible, but it's complicated. It's different for each one, and it has to be like a special way of doing it. Or, you know, just crumbling everything down. So, you know, this gigantic explosion would kill off the whole party, but it would stop the resurrection for, you know, many, many thousands of years. Or hundreds of years, I guess. So yeah, it worked out. I mean, all the characters sacrificed themselves, but at least it was for a purpose. It wasn't like Eugene. So, yeah, so, like I said, I could have prevented it if I really wanted to prevent the TPK, which in most situations I do, because TPKs are bad, especially in this. But here I was like, you know, because I had already thought about if a TPK happened, how I continue the story. So I'd already been thinking about it. So I was like, you know what, if there's going to be a moment for a TPK, this is it. And so I was like, I could really work to prevent it, or I can just let it happen. And so I let it happen. They all died. They foiled the resurrections. If they were alive, they would have gained some sanity back for their victory. But they died, so they don't have to worry about it. So, literally, on my notes, I just wrote explosions. Okay. So, TPK, yes. So, with this, I had to continue the story, obviously, with a whole new set of people. But also, I was like, well, if we're going to switch, now would be the time. So I was like, alright, we're going to switch to Fate Core. This was met with some questionable comments. Alex Johnson was not so sure he wanted to do this. You know, he was like, I'll do it, but I'm just not sure. I was like, oh, you know, we'll just be real cool about it. Won't be real serious. You know, we won't go too in depth here, and we'll just see how it is. So I was like, okay, we're gonna make all our characters in Fate Core, and you're all gonna be. We're gonna start in New York. You're all gonna be associates of this man, Jonah Kensington, and he's hired all of you to go on this expedition to Kenya. Because basically, yeah, they were done in Cairo. Like, that was it. That was the climax of Cairo. There's very little else to do there. And so, their next destination, once that last group got out of Cairo, I'm sure their next destination was Kenya. And Jonah knows that this birth is going to happen in Kenya, so he wants to get the group there. So he's hired this new team because he hasn't heard from the other team. He knew that they were going down there. He hasn't heard from them in a few days, and so he signed up this new team, and they're going to go down there. So they all had to make new characters, and pretty much whatever they wanted. You know, it wasn't like, yeah, there's no real rules. It's not like, well, you have to be from London or whatever. You know, just whatever. Wherever you want to be. And so we went through, and the skill system, I mean, the default skills, I know, we're switching to Fate. This is no longer, I cannot call it Call of Cthulhu anymore. Because it's not. It's Fate Core. So I have to refer to it as Masks. This is the Masks campaign for Fate Core. So, I don't know how I'm going to do that with the playlist for Rollman. I think I might, for the playlist on YouTube, I think I'll put it under both Call of Cthulhu and Fate Core. Because technically, you're using the Fate Core system, so people that go to that playlist will want to hear this. But, if people go to the Call of Cthulhu playlist and they want to hear the whole Masks thing, you know, I don't want them to just be at part 13 and be like, where's the next one? What the hell is this? So, I'll put it in both. But this is Fate Core now. We may switch back if we really hate Fate Core, but honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. So, the skill list for Fate Core, the default skill list for Fate Core is really solid. It sums up almost everything that you need, but it's open if you want to switch things in or out, or add things or remove things or whatever. So, it's good. It's a good skill system. So for Fate, or for this campaign, I don't think I added anything. I just split some stuff. So, like, fight became fists and weapons. So you're skilled in either, like, hand-to-hand punching combat, or you're skilled with, like, physical weaponry. Because that is kind of two different skill systems. I also thought about breaking down shoot into, like, guns or throwing. But I was like, how much do I want to, like, decimate this, you know? So I kept shoot as it is. I might change that in the future. We'll see. Because you don't want your skills to be too... You don't want too many skills, because then, you know, people have to specialize too much. So I guess it's fine. And then I broke down lore. Lore, like, there's just a lore skill, and that's way too broad. I feel like lore is going to be changed in a lot of campaigns. So I broke down lore into occult, academics, and science. So science is specifically like a field of sciences, you know, medical, biology, physics, chemistry, whatever. And then academics is basically all their education. You know, so that's like history, archaeology, stuff like that. And then occult is obviously everything occult. And that's pretty much it, I think. I think that's all the changes I made. So, not too crazy. And then there's also the Cthulhu Mythos skill, which nobody, of course, gets to put points into. It's just something you develop. And, so they just made their characters, and I was like, you know, because a few of these players have not read any rules for Fate, and they're just kind of going off what we've been telling them. So I was like, don't fret too much about making perfect aspects or something like that. Just be cool. And the character list that we got, I don't know if I have it here. I do. Is actually pretty solid. For the most part. There's some weaker parts, but again, some of them don't know all the rules and stuff. So we have Holly Robinson, who is played by Ren. She's basically Lara Croft. Like, pretty much exactly Lara Croft. We have Delawaru Macquarie. He is an exiled Kenyan shaman. This is Ziggy's character. And he's a very interesting person. So he's been exiled from Kenya, but it's time to go back home. He wants people to join his tribe. That's one of his aspects. Neptune Jones. That is a nickname, I think. That is Alex Johnson's character. He is a gentleman bank robber who pushes his luck. Jerry Fisk is this Briefly's character. He's an eccentric former police officer who is unaware of his weaknesses, and he wants to be a hero. But his second aspect is known to miss terribly at critical points. That is like the word, like, that is like a compel machine, man. Like, anytime Jerry does anything remotely important, he's going to get compelled on that. Be like, well, you're known to miss terribly at critical points. He's like, yeah, so here's your fate point, and you fuck up terribly. Like, that is just a beautiful aspect for a DM. And then we have Haruka Kikuchi. I'll let you guess whose character this is. He is an honor-bound samurai, but he is a ronin. And if you don't know what a ronin is, I only know from passing knowledge. They are a samurai who has basically been dishonored. This can be from a number of different things. I think the classic example is their master disgraced, like, the emperor or something like that. And so when the master, like in the traditional way, if the master has been disgraced, he is supposed to form seppuku. So that is ritual disemboweling. Self-disemboweling. So they would set it up all fancy, and he would just disembowel himself with a knife. Or a short sword. And then all of his men, all of his samurai, are supposed to follow suit. So they all have to kill themselves by disemboweling. If they don't, if they're like, fuck that, I'm out of here, they are known as Ronin, and they're basically enemies of the state. So, yeah, there's some history lessons for you. And Keanu Reeves was a Ronin or something like that, I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, he's an honor-bound samurai, but he's a Ronin. So, here's my problem with that. Your trouble is you're a Ronin. This is a Call of Cthulhu campaign. How the hell am I going to work that in? Like, literally, I cannot come up with an example where I can compel that as an aspect. Ronin. They're not going to meet any Japanese people, ever. Most people, 99% of people on the planet, I guess that's not true, but most people at this time are not going to know what the hell a Ronin is, or what a samurai is. They will maybe eventually go to China. That's not Japan. So even there, I can't use Ronin. I have no idea when to use that. And that's not like my problem. That's his problem. Because you want negative aspects, so you can get compelled, so you can get fate points. You want fate points. It's not my problem if you have a bad aspect that I can't compel. I'm not just going to make shit up and be like, oh, I'm going to compel your Ronin thing because this guy was secretly in Japan and he knows all about that and he doesn't like you now. Like, that's not going to happen. So that would be one of my complaints. I mean, there's some other few negative, like, not great aspects here, but Ronin? When am I going to use that? And I think Ed was using this. This is the same character he's using for our play-by-post thing, which is separate. But, like, it makes slightly more sense there. I don't know how. I'm never going to compel it. It's not going to happen. His other aspects are reserved trust. Okay, maybe I can compel that. Trial by combat. Maybe I can compel it. And direct. One-word aspects are rarely advised, I think. Because you can add more to that, you know. Neptune Jones has the infamous aspect. You can add more to that. Infamous, why? Why is he infamous? You know, you could put more details into that. Or, you know, infamous but doesn't give a shit, or something like that, you know. More details and aspects are always good. And again, I'm not going to get too, like I said, I'm not going to get too critical on these characters, because we have people that haven't read the rules, and we made these up during a session, which is not great. But, yeah. So, overall, though, it's a solid little fun bunch. So yeah, they made up their character, they had their aspects, they did their skills, and they did their stunts. And that was pretty much it. Bada boom. It's faster, I think, to make a Call of Cthulhu character. Yeah, I'd probably say it's faster to make a Call of Cthulhu character. I think once you get good at this, it'll be faster than it was, of course. Because you're just gonna have this picture in your head of this character, and just, you know, okay, he has this aspect, this aspect, this aspect. He has these skills, blah 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 blah. And then the stunts, I think, are always going to take a little bit of time. But it's not. You don't have to come up with everything right away. You know. You could just leave a stunt slot blank, and then later on you're like later on during a situation you could be like, man, I wish I had a stunt for this specific situation. And be like, go ahead. You know, if you have that slot open, go ahead. But yeah, so they made their characters, and we continued. So I jumped forward time a little bit. I didn't want to be a complete douchebag here, but it's March 22nd. So I jumped it just a little bit. So it's March 5th. I figure at this point Jonah got worried. He hadn't heard from him. He's got to. I mean, Jonah knows about this March 31st thing, so he knows he's got to get this moving. So if he hasn't heard from them, he's going to find more people. So they met with Jonah Kensington. He said, "You're going to Kenya for this important mission. I'm funding the whole thing." He handed out these, you know, thick dossiers detailing the whole thing, and they're to meet in Mombasa with a man by the name of Mr. Gulk. And so they set sail on the SS Amaryllis, you know, plus 1 point if you get the reference. Yes, I'm self-referencing. And so they set sail. It's a 12-day trip. Oof. And so they all read the dossiers. And this thing covers, like, this is becoming like a mythos tome with how much info is in here. So it talks about the Juju House. It talks about, you know, the Penhew Foundation in London and all that craziness. It talks about their trip to Cairo and Reginald Steinway, and, you know, it mentions Kafur and Nyarlathotep and the Mask and all sorts of shit. So they all got +1 Cthulhu mythos just from reading this thing. Like, this is some new knowledge for all of you. And, you know, in the future, just reading any given tome is not going to increase your mythos skill. It's going to take a bit of work. It's not like Call of Cthulhu, because I don't have as broad of a spectrum. But yeah, so they all read that. They did talk a little bit. Delawaru tried to be pretty talkative, but nobody was that talkative with him. You know, he's just trying to get a read on people. So Neptune Jones, he figures as a criminal. He doesn't really like him. Holly Robinson comes from some wealth, you know. Jerry, I don't think he talked to. And then Haruka was just very, like, he didn't want to say anything. I'd always liked to play these characters that are just very quiet and mysterious. Not great team players, I guess. And so, yeah, they did their little small talk. And they didn't really have much to talk about for the dossiers. They're just like, you know, this is bad shit. You know, because all it says is, like, you gotta find the Mountain of the Black Wind before the 31st and foil this birth. Easier said than done. And so finally on March 17th, they arrive in Mombasa. And they get off, and they go through customs because Jonah took care of everything. I didn't want to make a fuss about customs. We just had this TPK. We need to get this ball roll. Like, the ball kind of halted a little bit. I need to get it going again. So customs is not how you get the ball rolling. So they go through customs fine. They got all their weapons. And they see this short, hairy-looking man holding up a sign that says Kensington Expedition. So they go over to him. He introduces himself as Mr. Golk, but you can call me Golk. He's like, we should go into this tea house to talk. There's much to discuss. So they go into the tea house, and he tells them about how they need to take the Ugandan railway into inland to get to Nairobi. And he's already made arrangements for them in first class. And he tells them that they need to discover the location of the Mountain of Black Wind. Now, of course, Golk knows where that is, but we gotta build this up. These characters don't know this man. And he told them to go to the hotel there, the Norfolk, which is the nicest hotel in Nairobi. And he gave them a few leads. One is the Nairobi Star, which is basically the main newspaper there. So if the Carlisle expedition was around, the Nairobi Star might have some back issues that could give some info. Told them about Nails Nelson, who claims from Elias's notes that he met Jack Brady in Hong Kong. He might be he's over there. He might be worth chatting to. And Johnstone Kenyatta, who was also mentioned in Elias's notes. And Golk said that he had some business to finish up with in Mombasa, but he'll be along to Nairobi shortly. So the train leaves in about an hour. It's like a 16-hour drive, 16-hour ride. And sorry. So they all kind of Delawaru goes up to Neptune Jones. He's like, there's a place in Mombasa that may suit your taste. And so the two of them go off to a gambling den. So Neptune Jones begins, he sits down with a group, and they're playing cards, and he wants to cheat. So he's got like I let him use burglary, because burglary encompasses, sleight of hand, stuff like that. So he's got like a +4 to it. So he starts cheating. He does pretty well. Delawaru brings him over, some strong alcoholic drinks. He starts just double fisting it. And I have him roll physique. And this was actually, I guess, it totally worked out in the end. It was probably much better this way, perhaps. But I'm wondering if I handled this a bit too generously. Basically, what I did was, for each drink I had him roll physique. And the opposition went up every time that he took a drink. So it started at just +0, then +1, then +2. The problem was he rolled a 0, a +1, and then a +2. And I was like, he just had 3, rum and cokes or whatever, 3 Long Islands, however you want it. I'm not sure, he didn't take any mental stress is what he was going to take. I feel like he should. So I either could have just ramped it up so he was forced to take some mental stress, or after the third drink I could have just been, okay, you have an aspect on you that's tipsy. I think that's probably the better way to do it. Because then it's just like, you know, I don't have to worry about his roles or anything like that. Just, boom, you're tipsy. It's a situational aspect. It's going to go away. It's not a consequence. Because the other way, you would basically be making a consequence. And those have like a specific system for recovering. So I think just, boom, situational aspect. You're tipsy. And when this guy throws a... Yeah, I really should have done this. All right, let me finish the story. I'll tell you why. Okay, so he's getting these drinks. He continues cheating. He does a little bit worse, but he's still doing all right. And then I give him the compel. His trouble is pushes his luck. So I compel him to push his luck even more. So he takes another drink. He cheats one more time. He gets like a 0, I think, overall. He really bungled the roll. Or maybe a 1. And I'm like, all right, so you lay down your hand of just, 5 aces or whatever. And the guy just grabs your wrist. I think we got a cheater here. It was very Wild West for some reason. And Neptune's Jones, he tries talking his way out of him. He's like, well, I'll give you back half your money. There's been a misunderstanding. He's like, you'll give us all your money. I don't think so. So the dude throws a punch. Okay, so the guy that punched, he rolled -4. That was just the dice roll. I think I've talked about fate dice rolling, right? I'm getting old, man. I don't remember what I talk about. I think so. I'll quickly say it again here. Okay, so for fate, you roll 4 fudge dice. They either have a plus, a minus, or a 0 on it. Plus is +1, minus is -1, 0 is nothing. So you can either get -4 all the way up to +4. And then you add your skill to it. Pretty simple, okay? He rolled -4. The odds of this are like 2%. And so he completely bungled it. Now, what I should have had was I should have had the tipsy or, intoxicated situational aspect on Neptune Jones. And then, since there are 2 PCs in the scene, I get 2 fate points used for invoking. So I should have had the drunk guy, or the guy throwing the punch. He should have spent a fate point to invoke the intoxicated aspect that was on Neptune Jones, and he should have gotten the reroll, and he should have been boom. That's what should have happened. That's how fate is supposed to work. It's all about them aspects, So that's why you don't want to drink, because you don't want that negative aspect that some guy is going to use to his advantage. That's what should have happened. But it worked out fine anyways, so I'm just kind of nitpicking. Anyways, I'm learning. I'm learning. Okay, so he completely bungles the punch, like, dude, he spins all the way around and lands on the table. So the other guys are like, what did you do to Bob, you asshole? And so they throw a punch. This guy connects. And so Neptune Jones does not dodge out of the way well enough, so just like 1 point of damage. And I'm changing it up a little bit because this is still a horror game. It is still going to be kind of deadly. Not as deadly as Call of Cthulhu, but a little bit. So normally when you do physical stress or mental stress, the boxes count as 1, 2, 3, or 4, So if you have the 4 box and you take a 4 hit, you can just tick that and it's gone. But I'm changing it using an optional rule where each box is only worth 1, but you can check as many as you want, in 1 hit. So if you take a 4 hit and you've got all 4 boxes, you can check each one, but then boom, that's all your stress. This may be a bit complicated if you haven't read the rules. I'm kind of gunning through it. I apologize. The point is, I'm making Fate Core a bit deadlier because it's a horror game. Okay, that's what you need to know. Okay, so he connects, does a little bit of damage. It kind of just grazes. So Neptune Jones throws his drink in the guy's face, throws the rest of the money, and just runs. Meanwhile, Delawaru, he left quietly while this was going on. He snuck out, and he's like quick walking to the train. So Neptune Jones, like, all this havoc is going on in this gambling den. Because this guy's a cheater. You're in a gambling den. People aren't going to like him. So he runs out. And this was the beauty of the thing. This is why I really like Fate Core. When it comes down to it, this is why I really like it. Most people, like I've said, most people when they're playing their characters, they just think about, what would I do? Fate Core is like, what would my character do? So Alex Johnson was like, no, I'm just going to run out of here. But then he looks at his sheet and he's like, oh, my character is always on the fly. You know, he thinks always on the fly. So he's going to turn around quickly and try and lock the door behind him. I'm just like, that's what Fate Core is about, man. You're just thinking, you have this sheet, you have these aspects. You're like, how do I follow these aspects? Because now, if he does this roll to lock the door and he doesn't love it, now he can invoke that aspect always on the fly because he knows he did this because of that aspect. See? It's brilliant. I really like it. So he whips around. He rolls to lock the door. And one of the guys, there's like a mass crowd of people trying to get out as he's closing this door. So one stray hand comes in, clips him one more time. But he gets the door shut, he locks it, there's just banging on it, and he's just sprinting towards the train now. He passes up Delaware, he's like, run! And so the door to the gambling den just bursts open. They just hop on the train last second as it's pulling away, and this mob of angry people are just slamming on the sides of it. You son of a bitch! And the train just pulls away, and they're like, whew, as he like straightens his hat. And I'm like, that is such a freaking movie moment, man. That's why I like Fate. I think it lends itself much better to movie moments. So, yeah, that was just a great start there. Really good. Thank you, Neptune Jones. Like, it was straight out of, like, Shanghai Noon or something like that. It was awesome. Okay. So, they're on the train. The train's, like, 16 hours long. And there is trouble. There is some trouble because there is a black man in the party again. And even in Africa, man, being a black man's not that great. Not in 1925, unfortunately. Whitey is still keeping him down a little bit. So he wasn't wanted in the first class carriage, but they pretended that he was Holly Robinson's manservant. So as long as he was kept on a tight leash, he'd be okay with it. Okay, so the train ride continues, goes into the next day, so it's March 18th now. Goes for most of the day, nighttime approaches, and suddenly they start hearing screams, and people are pointing out the windows, and they see two bright lights suspended outside of the train, just like keeping pace with the train, and they start to approach. And they see that the walls of the carriage start melting. And people are screaming and they're backing up. And the first class carriage is all the way at the end of the train. So it's farthest away from the engine. I know it's you're like, it's farthest in the back. What? But the engine is smelly and dirty. First class people don't like that. So far away as possible. Makes sense. So they're all the way in the back. And these lights attacked at like the front of the carriage. So everybody is like pushed all the way to the back of this train. They're like crunched up. And so these lights melt through, and so like it is like an open carriage now. And they're entering in. And so Jerry like rolls on the ground and fires his handgun right through one. And I'm like, okay, nice. You see the bullet hole against the back wall of the carriage, or the front wall, I guess. He's like, shit. And so then one swoops in and like burns his ass. And so we did like the first damage. Well, not really. We got the first consequence of the session. So he took them. It was his decision basically, but he took the minor consequence of singed. Now, the interesting thing about fate is it's up to me to keep track of that. Like, because, I mean, he doesn't, like, he wants to pretend he doesn't have that. Like, consequences are really only bad. Rarely are you going to get to use a consequence for positive effect. Mostly it's going to be bad. So, that I want to remember that he is singed, or he's been gutted, or he has a bullet wound, or, you know, he's rattled, or any sort of consequence or negative aspect. Because I want to use that to my benefit. So that means you're keeping track of a lot of information. Like, you're keeping track of almost as much information as they are. So I've got, like, I had to write down, like, you need this. You need this information. This is all of their aspects. I need this information. Because I need to keep looking at that if I want any compels or stuff like that. But then also I need to know their consequences so I can remember, like, oh yeah, he's singed. How do I use this to my advantage? I don't have to, but the game's more fun that way. So there is a lot of information tracking in Fate. I guess not numerically, but whatever the equivalent of is for words. I'm getting old. So yeah, he got singed, and so they started looking around. They were like, well, bullets don't do shit, so they start looking around for things to throw at them. Water, sand, fire extinguishers, and so a bottle of sherry. So, like, people are getting burned. They're throwing water and sand at them. They take care of the red light pretty quickly, but the blue one's a bit more persistent because he's hotter. And I think Holly Robinson, yeah, she looks for she's trying to look for something to throw. She really bungles her investigate roll to find something. She has the aspect, this was fucking hilarious from Ren. She has the aspect, lucky, but not for those around her. That's a curious aspect, because it's like, when I'm compelling, who am I giving the fate point to? Yeah, I'm not sure. How does that work? Because it's not negative for her, because that's bad for everybody else. I guess it kind of is negative for her if everybody automatically, like, if it's blatantly that it's her fault. Like, in this situation. So, she invokes that aspect. And I'm like, okay. So she gets a reroll, and so she does alright. So she finds, like, a jug of water. But while she's doing it, in her haste, she bumps into some random nerdy white guy. And he falls towards the light, and he just gets horribly burned. Whoops. And so everybody could tell that it was, you know, she definitely shoved the guy, basically. So I guess that is how I'm going to have to work it, is where it has to be a situation where it's bad for somebody around her, but everybody's going to know she's bad news. She's bad luck, basically. Okay, yeah, so they start throwing at these things, but it doesn't look like it's stopping. So, what is this guy? Haruko. Or Haruka, I don't know. I think it's Haruka. He decides, well... Oh, right. Man, why am I skipping so many details? Okay, so they're like... Oh, Neptune Jones is like, can I spend a fate point to declare a story detail? And I think Ziggy was like, oh, like it's raining. Like, yeah, that'd be nice, but I just was gonna say, like, I have a bottle of booze on me. And I was like, well, you can spend a fate point if you want to just say you have a bottle of booze on you, but I think everybody would have to spend a fate point to say it's raining. That's a big detail at this time, you know. And I like that I can just do that. Like, it doesn't say it's not raining or it's raining. Obviously, it helps the players if it's raining, and if it helps the players, it's got to cost fate points. But I can't just put that burden on one person, and it's a pretty big deal, so how about everybody spend a fate point? And they're like, should we do this? Okay, we'll do this. So they all spent a fate point. I was like, all right, lightning cracks across the sky, and it begins to pour. But the ceiling on the carriage is still on. It's kind of buckling, but it's still there. So I think Neptune Jones takes out his revolver and he starts firing at the roof right above the light. And so a bunch of big holes appear, and rain starts pouring in on it. And it, like, recoils. It doesn't have hands, I just did that. And so it backs up, and it, like, starts moving towards the other carriages. Like, it's, like, running away, basically. So it melts the door to the dining car, and it starts going down that way. Like, we got it on the run. So Haruka flips up onto the top of the train. And I was like, okay, well, it's pouring. So it has the situational aspect of slippery. Yes, do this, all right? Do, like, any scene that you're in, look for aspects. Just look at how you can place aspects to your benefit, or the player's benefit, or to their, you know, demise. And you can tell them, like, I think by the rules, you're supposed to be a bit more open with aspects than people probably will be. But I'll tell them, like, it has the aspect of slippery. And that's not, like, shocking news. Like, if you were there in real life, you'd be like, fuck, this is slippery. But in the game, you wouldn't really think about it until it was perhaps too late. But here it's like, yeah, it's slippery. It has the aspect slippery. And so the player is like, that's probably going to screw me. And they should, because this is a dangerous situation. But he goes ahead anyways. He pulls out his sword. I still have no idea what he's trying to accomplish with this. He wants to, like, save the people in the carriage. He slams his sword into the roof of the dining car and runs along the top of the roof, slicing open vertically the whole roof. I think he was maybe hoping that it would just, like, rip open or something like that and rain would pour in, but I don't think that's how things work. Maybe in anime. So he's running along it, and he gets to the end, and I'm like, all right, you cut along the whole thing, but I'm going to offer you a compel on the slippery roof. And he's like, well, what'll it do? And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. You have to accept it or not. He denied it. He felt that it was worth giving up basically 2 fate points. You have to spend a fate point to refuse the fate point. And so he didn't want it to happen. And I think he was worried I was just going to kill him. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't just say, well, you fall off and die. That's bad DMing. Don't do that. I was fine with him refusing. It's not really big skin off my back. It's whatever. But if he would have accepted, basically he would have slipped and fell, and he would have, like, one hand on his sword as he's hanging over the side of the train and just being kind of beaten against the side. And he would have to kind of get, you know, compel is not going to be a good thing. It's never going to be a good thing. But it's not instant death. It's just like, oh, shit. And, yeah, you might be thinking, with this kind of change in system, the campaign is going to be a bit more pulpy than it has been. A bit more cinematic. Like, I'm sure you're picturing this scene in your head, and it's kind of cinematic. Especially this freaking Asian samurai running along a roof of a train, cutting it open while lightning's cracking across the sky and rain is pouring down. It's kind of cinematic. Now, that's not to say that wouldn't have happened in Call of Cthulhu, but I just feel like Fate kind of encourages it a bit more. Okay, so this thing is in the dining car. The Asian guy didn't do anything, really. So they run in. Holly Robinson runs in. She sees, like, a pitcher of water there because it's a dining car. She pulls out her whip, and she took the stunt. Shit, I don't remember what it was called. It was something whip grip. I think it was whip grip, which lets you grab objects with your whip using the fight skill, or in this case, the weapon skill. So she whips the pitcher of water, and she throws it at the light. She rolled, like, +5, and I was like, yeah, that's good. So she just whoosh, and it just smashes into the light, and it just dies and diminishes. And they are victorious. They saved the train. And so they go back to the first class car. Delawaru begins, like, treating the injured, burned people. And sorry, I know I keep doing this. So he's treating people. The train has come to a stop at this point. Word has spread that shit went down. So they're stopping, they're catching their breath. The conductor of the train runs back and he's like, "What the hell happened here? I want answers." In this situation, none of them were very Frederick Zoller. None of them were very Artemis. None of them were very anything. They were kind of terrible. They kind of botched this a little bit. And I think Neptune Jones did the majority of the talking. And he's like, well, the conductor's like, "Who started this fire?" And Neptune Jones pointed at a dead guy, like a burned dead, the guy that Holly pushed into him. And so the conductor's like, why he set himself on fire? And so really, they should have said nothing at all. Like, they should have just let the other passengers be like, there were these weird lights everywhere and they were on fire and I don't know. Like, just act traumatized like everybody else. It was a terrible moment. And so he like continued. I think one of the, like, he was spinning this bullshit, and one of the people in the first class was like, "I thought he got pushed by that woman," referring to Holly. And the conductor's like, "What woman?" And so I think it might have been Jerry. He like pointed to a dead woman on the ground. The conductor's like, I don't, we're like an hour away from Nairobi. I'm going to start the train back up. We're going to get there, and I'm going to get some answers. Neptune Jones decides to pickpocket the conductor and steals his wallet and his hat. Out of his wallet, he takes his conductor's license. The train starts back up, and they arrive in Nairobi. It's nighttime. The conductor comes back as everybody's getting ready to get off, and he's like, I want your guys' names. I'm gonna write this up. Neptune Jones is like, "Oh, I found your wallet." He's like, "You found it?" And he starts looking through it. And he's like, "Where the hell's my license?" And Neptune Jones is like, "You don't have a license? What the hell is this?" You can see what he's trying to do. So they get into this argument. He's like, "You son of a bitch, where'd you put my license?" They get into an argument. Everybody else kind of slips off the train without, telling them what their names are and all that. They get off. Eventually, Neptune pisses off the guy enough that the conductor throws a punch. I think he connects as well. I think he like bloodies his nose or something. So Neptune starts running. He's like, "Help me, this guy doesn't even have a license and he assaulted me." So Jerry chases after them. So they're running through the streets, and the street is definitely patrolled with cops. So the cops stop them all. Neptune tries to explain himself. The conductor is like, "This man, he set fire to my train. He stole my license." While they're doing that, Neptune pickpockets the officer and steals his keys. Jerry, this was the dumbest thing ever. Jerry's like, "Fuck this." He runs. He starts to run from the cops. This ain't no, London cops or anything like that, Like, "Oh, after him, boys." No, this is a freaking Kenyan cop. So this dude just pulls out his revolver and just shoots him right through the kidney. Well, probably not right through the kidney. Through the gut. Through center mass. So he takes like a moderate consequence. He's not feeling great. So he took the moderate consequence bullet wound or gunshot wound. And they rush over and they just knock him unconscious. And so the other two are taken in for questioning, and Jerry is going to be taken in to be stabilized and then to be questioned. The rest of the group is just like, well, that's nice. And they go to the hotel and they get their rooms, which Golk paid for. And the concierge is like, he paid for it about a week ago, but he paid in gold, curiously enough. It's just like, yeah, that's what Golk does. He pays in gold. So they get their rooms, and again, the Delaware is not really welcome, but he said that he is Holly's manservant. And so they're like, okay, as long as he's not out there on his own, bad things will happen. And so Neptunes is being questioned. And he tells his bullshit side of the story. And he's like, you know, you can ask the conductor, you know, he didn't have a license. And so the conductor, of course, said exactly the truth of what happened, of what he knows. And the cop comes back, he's like, I'm going to have to search you. And Neptunes is like, okay, no problem. And I'm like, no problem. What? And so he starts searching him, and so Neptune's like, can I roll burglary to see how well I hid that card, the license? I'm like, sure. So he rolls, all right, he gets like a 3. And I'm like, all right. So the cop, he's patting you down and everything, and he doesn't find the license, but he comes back up with a key ring around his finger. And Alex Johns is like, shit. Like, he completely forgot about it. I was like, wow. That was like 3 minutes ago. So he's like, well. He's like, oh, did you lose that? I found it. I'm like, yeah, you found plenty of things, haven't you? Like, well, let me explain. Into the cell with him. Like, ah. So they're both in a Kenyan prison. And the rest of the group is in a nice hotel. And that's pretty much where we ended. So, of course, Alex Johnson was like, should I just make a new character for next time? I'm like, no. Because you know me, I can't have characters end their existence in prison. I just won't have it. So, Golk will get them out probably in some fashion. They may not like how he does it, but yeah, he'll get. They're not going to end in prison. That's bullshit. So yeah, that was that session. That's how we switched from Call of Cthulhu to Fate Core. Like, it felt like such a difference, just thematically and how they played, and it was so different. Not unpleasant, you know. The more I play, like, even when I read Fate Core, I liked it, but the more I play it, I'm like, this works. I like this. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this continue. Now, of course, deaths are still going to occur. This is still a horror game where shit can go down. I'm still basing this on a Call of Cthulhu campaign, so bad stuff is going to happen. The one thing that I went over again and again in my head was, how do I do sanity? Do I make it a separate thing or do I not? Because really, mental stress and sanity go hand in hand. Like, it works. And I was like, how much do I want to tie the Call of Cthulhu sanity system to this? Because Call of Cthulhu sanity system is not great. It's really not. It just kind of is what it is, and it's stuck around for so long. So I'm like, I don't think I'm going to have, like, a sanity track. I just think, you know, scary shit's going to happen, gruesome shit, whatever, bad shit is going to happen. They're going to roll their will, and I'm going to have, like, a set number. So, like, if you see the Cthulhu, the number is, like, 10. So you roll your will, say you roll, like, a 1. You're going to take 9 mental stress. Which I mean, that's a pretty worst case scenario. Because you could get like a 5. That wouldn't be impossible. Especially since I told them will is related to sanity. So say I got a 5. That's 5 mental stress. They're going to take a consequence no matter what. You're not going to get out of that without a consequence. So I guess that's not terrible. Because that's like succeeding on your sanity check. You could really botch it and get like a -1. Which is basically like, that's really bad. You're pretty much out of commission. Yeah, I just think that's a better way to do it. I don't think having a separate system. I think mental stress is sanity. And, you know, stress goes away at the end of a scene, but consequences don't. And so the really bad shit, you know, somewhat tame shit might just fuck you up for a little bit during the scene, where you're just like at unease. But then the really bad shit, that's going to stick with you almost certainly, especially since I modified the stress system for this. So, yeah, I think that's how I'm going to do it. It's good. Yeah, Fate is good. It's so modifiable. Like, the same system, like the same system that I'm using for a horror, pulpy horror 1925 masks campaign is also going to be the same system that we're probably going to use for like a sci-fi craziness whatever campaign next week, you know. The same damn system. That's just cool. I know there's other generic systems, but I like it. So yeah, this is a Fate campaign now. Like I said, I don't think it's going to make a big difference to you. It probably will only end up being positive. Some of you maybe were Call of Cthulhu diehards and you think this is a travesty. Sorry. But for the rest of you, I think it's just going to involve for much more entertaining stories, which is probably why you're watching. I think this was a really long video, which is kind of funny because not that much really happened, but we did do a system transfer in the middle of a session, which is unusual. So yeah, let me know what you think about changing the systems. Let me know what you think about Fate Core, and yeah, so my name is Mang. This has been Roll Manging for our Masks campaign. And I'll see you fine folks in 2 weeks.